Welcome to the three-part mini-series where I'm going to be diving into how you will crush Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Q4 in general this year in 2024. So as a part of the first episode of this little mini-series I'm doing, I want to make some predictions as well as set some expectations, not only because, I'm gonna look super cool if they come true, but also because this year I feel like it's genuinely gonna be a little bit different compared to previous years, which is why it's really important that you watch part 1, part 2, and part 3 so that you can get a full scope of exactly what to expect going into Q4 of 2024. And the reason why I say this year is going to be super different is because of the elections in the US, right? Obviously, the US being the biggest market for Shopify brands, having something big like the elections taking place at the same time as Black Friday will of course have enormous impacts on the outcomes of your brands. Because during elections, politicians and each individual parties will ramp up their spending on ads, driving up CPM, but also during this time, because it's such a crucial period for the country, platforms like Meta, Google, basically any ad platform will actually have restrictions in place and more of a filtering / approval system for new ad accounts, new ads, etc. The last time we saw this issue was in 2020. However, 2020, the reason why it was a record-breaking year for D2C, it was because of COVID, right? People were getting stimulus checks, people were spending really, really freely. So I feel like we didn't necessarily see the true impacts last year, but if you look at your CPMs trending over the course of the recent months, you probably would have noticed a pretty high CPM in US markets. Because I know certainly we have across the 36 brands that we're working with at the moment. Another added component is nowadays, because of the lack of stimulus checks, unlike in 2020, the economy is tightening. People are not spending as much as they were a couple years ago. But that said though, Shopify GMV, aka their gross merchandise value, has grown year on year, quarter on quarter. I'm gonna get my editor to pop up a graph on screen. You'll see that every Q4 of every year, there's always a spike in Shopify GMV. And I feel like this year is not gonna be any different because that spike is generally within the range of 25 to around 35% of GMV for the previous quarter. So Q2 and Q3, the GMV would have been around 67 billion. So my predictions for Q4, it's gonna fall somewhere between the 80 to 85 billion mark. Now, because there's so many billions involved, does it mean that your brand is not gonna hit the revenue targets that you're hoping for? Absolutely not. You just need to figure out the right strategy for you to capture a slice of that 85 billion to be able to make your sales targets. And that's exactly what I'm going to be making the next 2 episodes of this 3-part mini-series on. The biggest factor that's going to be contributing to your success this year is primarily going to be understanding exactly what offer to run. We've been in the space for 5 years now, and the biggest mistakes that I see brands making, and I'm speaking to specifically brand owners here rather than dropshippers, what I find with brand owners is that they tend to overcomplicate their offers, right? Or not really understand how to structure offers based on performance. Especially the low 7-figure / multi 6-figure brands. They generally tend to prioritize things like brand value, all of this stuff, rather than profit and cash flow and scale. I'm not saying those things don't matter. However, in the grand scheme of things, if you are at low scale, I would definitely be prioritizing things like profit and cash flow above things like brand value, etc. So really understanding the offers and what to run based on your needs is going to be super important, which is what the next episode of this mini-series is going to be on, where I'll be breaking down exactly all of the different variables that you should be assessing before showing you guys exactly how to arrive at the perfect offer for your brand and your goals this Q4. By the way, I hope you guys are enjoying this video. I put out literally all of this information for free because it essentially just helps me build social proof, and as a result, a lot of brands want to work with me. One of the things I created for you guys is this lead magnet where I basically break down the entire steps of how to create offers, as well as give you the exact Black Friday, Cyber Monday email and SMS calendar that my agency is running for brands in our portfolio doing anywhere from 1 million a year all the way up to 30 million a year. So if you want to get access to that completely free of charge, go to the link in the description, sign up to my newsletter, and I'll just send you the link as an opt-in bonus immediately. So So with the end of this episode, I'm gonna make 4 different predictions. Number 1 is that this Q4 will bring a GMV of anywhere from 80 billion to 85 billion, allowing Shopify to hit all-time highs. If we look at historical data, it's gonna project around kind of like 84.5 billion in GMV for Shopify stores. However, I think because of this election year and just overall how the economy is, I'm gonna lean on the side that it's not gonna be kind of on target compared to previous years. The second prediction that I feel like always happens is just having the right strategy and making the right preparations will mean that you are gonna crush the ill-prepared, and it's very much gonna be kind of like a winner takes all scenario. So for example, if you look at like the mean increase, right? So the increase of GMV between Q3 to Q4, it's around 30%. But a lot of the brands that we work with during Q4 generate kind of like 2 to 5x the revenue that they do in Q3. Why is that? Well, it's because the 30% increase reflects kind of like the mean increase for the average brand. However, a difference in strategy will literally make or break you, right? So if you're not fully prepared for Q4, you could only scale maybe like 12% in revenue, whereas the person that really kind of like dialed in, understood their offers, understood their contribution margins, understood exactly what their audience wanted, understood all of the consumer objections, made inventory preparations, all of this stuff, they could have a 5x. And that is gonna be the difference. Or if you're really poorly prepared, your revenue could actually drop. Understand that that 30% is the mean, but if you were to look at, let's say like the distribution curve, you're gonna see that on the very high end, brands are hitting kind of like 2, 3x, maybe even 5, 10x. During Q4, whereas kind of like the bottom percentiles of brands are only able to grow by kind of like 5, maybe 10% in sales. My third prediction is also another one for brands. Understanding your LTV, but also more importantly, your LTV cycles is gonna be super important, because during Q4, you're gonna be able to acquire a ton of new first-time buyers. And if you don't understand how much, let's say, the 12-month lifetime value is and what the process and timeline that looks like of that LTV being realized on a month-to-month basis, you're gonna find it really difficult to actually scale at, let's say, front-end break-even. Because through a simple cohort analysis, which I'm gonna show you how to do in the next part of this mini-series, you're gonna be able to identify exactly how much revenue a first-time buyer will generate for you over the next 12 months on month 2, month 3, month 4, etc. So that way, you're gonna be able to truly scale your ads to the max this Q4. And my last prediction is gonna be that dropshippers who are kind of new to the space are gonna find it a bit more difficult to scale if you don't launch your stores early enough, and if you don't have the right relationships with insiders on these ad platforms, because CPMs will be higher, but more importantly, approval times probably will be higher, as well as ad rejection rates might be a little higher as well. So if you don't have those connections, you should really get some. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed episode 1 of this Black Friday Cyber Monday mini-series, and I will see you guys in the next one. I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to craft your offers.